Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya headquarters. These are our top stories. Hamas said it will delay the release of more Israeli hostages as it accuses Israel of violating the terms of the ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, Trump says no right of return for Palestinians under his Gaza takeover plan. China's retaliatory tariffs on the US take effect as Trump is set to impose new 25% levies on all steel and aluminium imports into the US. Tech titans and world leaders gather in Paris for a landmark AI summit. And Donald Trump ramps up LIV Golf PGA Tour merger talks. We speak exclusively to the new CEO of LIV, Scott O'Neill, later in the show. Now to our top story. Hamas says it will delay the release of more Israeli hostages as it accuses Israel of violating the terms of the ceasefire agreement. For more on this, let's go live to Tel Aviv to speak to Giles Gibson. Giles, good evening to you. First of all, what's the latest we're hearing?
Well, we just in the last hour or so had a statement from the armed wing of Hamas announcing that they are going to be postponing the exact words until further notice the next hostage release that was set to take place in around about 5 days' time on Saturday of this week. They are accusing the Israeli government of violating the terms of the ceasefire deal. Of course, we're still in phase one of the ceasefire deal. No reaction as yet from the Israeli government to this statement from Hamas. This breaking news that they are postponing until further notice the next round of hostage releases.
Giles, you say no response yet from the Israeli side, but what does this mean for the ongoing talks? And there are supposed to be discussions on, say, phase two of the ceasefire. What's going to happen going forward? Any idea yet?
Well, those talks have now begun. We had confirmation just a few hours ago that a high-level delegation that was sent by Israel to Qatar, where, of course, the previous talks to set up this ceasefire deal also took place. We had confirmation that that team had returned to Israel. They didn't really give us any other details about the progress of the talks or how close they were in any way to agreeing, moving on to the second phase of this deal. But of course, you know, this statement now from Hamas saying that they are going to delay the next release of hostages, well, that just puts the entire status of the phase one of this ceasefire really under threat. This is a huge moment, really the closest we've come yet to the ceasefire deal breaking down.
Yes, indeed. And we have been speaking, Giles, haven't we, of how fragile the ceasefire deal is. But just want to turn to President Donald Trump. He's ruled out Palestinians being able to return to Gaza. Can you outline what he said and what reaction we've had to this so far?
Yeah, so President Trump gave an interview to Fox News to coincide with the Super Bowl. And in this interview by the Fox News anchor Bret Baier, he was asked directly a question about whether he would allow Palestinians who leave Gaza under this vision that he has for the enclave the right to return. And his answer was very clear. He said, no, they wouldn't, because they are going to have much better housing in some of the other places where they're going. Now, this is a suggestion, this idea of permanently displacing Palestinians from Gaza that has been roundly condemned by experts in international law, saying that it would be against international law. Now, President Trump is set to meet on Tuesday at the White House with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah of Jordan, and he is the leader of one of the countries, Jordan, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, where President Trump has suggested that refugees from Gaza could go once they leave the enclave. But we've already heard in recent days from all three of those countries that they are not prepared to take in refugees from Gaza, that they are very much standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people, that they are against any idea that would involve the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza. So President Trump trying to get this proposal moving, trying to set it into motion, even though Arab countries in the region are saying that they are firmly against it.
Giles Gibson in Tel Aviv, thank you so much for joining me with that breaking news this evening. Now, US President Donald Trump is set to impose 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports, and those would come on top of existing duties. It's another major escalation in trade policy as he takes aim against both rivals and allies alike. Benji Hyer has this report.
Last night in America, it was all about the Super Bowl, the big football clash between two sporting giants, the Eagles and the Chiefs. But something, or rather someone else, was looking to steal the limelight and take on his own contests.
And we're flying right over it right now. So we thought this would be appropriate. Even bigger than the Super Bowl. This is a big thing.
President Donald Trump declared yesterday, the 9th of February, as the Gulf of America Day, as he flew over the Gulf of Mexico in his Air Force One jet on his way to attend the game. He wants to rename the ocean basin.
I don't want U.S. steel being owned by a foreign country.
But perhaps the bigger announcement is his imminent 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports, the latest offensive in his trade battles. The United States relies on metal imports, mostly from Canada, the UAE and China, which will now inevitably become more expensive. That latest move coming shortly after China's own tit-for-tat measures came into effect on certain US imports on Sunday night. And then
Every country will be reciprocal, that's right. Every country. It won't affect everybody because there's some where we have similar tariffs. But the ones that are taking advantage of the United States, we're going to have it's reciprocity, it's reciprocal.
President Trump said further tariffs would be announced this week, targeting other nations with trade barriers against the US.
If they charge us, we charge them. That's all.
And lastly, a shot at his neighbours, suggesting the concessions on immigration offered last week by Mexico and Canada were not enough, before claiming he was deadly serious about Canada becoming the 51st American state, warning the sovereign G7 nation is not a viable country without US trade and support. We're only 3 weeks into this presidency, and yet the entire global economy is shifting before our eyes. Will Donald Trump's tariff tactics cause pain, in the words of the president, or will this disruptive style lead to success for the United States? Benji Hyer, Al Arabiya News, Washington.
Elsewhere, China has imposed reciprocal tariffs on the US, hitting about $14 billion worth of goods and dashing hopes that a trade war between the world's two largest economies could have been avoided. Beijing announced the tariffs last week in response to a US decision to impose an additional 10% levy on Chinese products. Laura Westbrook has more.
China's measures target US exports of liquefied natural gas, coal, crude oil and farm equipment, as well as a small number of trucks and big engine cars shipped from the United States to China with taxes of 10 to 15%. They join other countermeasures by China, including controls on critical metals exports, as well as an anti-monopoly investigation into the US tech giant Google. Now, the targeted approach by Beijing had been seen as creating room for negotiations. But when the deadline passed on Sunday, there was no news of a deal, and Beijing announced the tariffs were in effect. And Trump has suggested that he would talk to Chinese President Xi Jinping, but after China retaliated, he said he was in no rush. He's also called the tariffs an opening salvo and said more measures could come. Some analysts had been hoping that Trump would use the same playbook with China as he did with Mexico and Canada, where he announced the tariffs but then gave a month's reprieve after last-minute talks with the leaders. That did not happen in this case, and some analysts say that Trump only giving 2 days between announcing and implementing the tariffs was too quick of a timeline for President Xi. The US president says the new 10% tariffs are in retaliation for China not doing more to stem the flow of the drug fentanyl into America. Beijing says it has taken measures to crack down on the illicit drug trade. It's also filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization. And according to the Brookings Institution, the new tariffs from Beijing will affect jobs in industrial states that voted for Donald Trump, like Indiana and Ohio. The state says between 400 and 700,000 American jobs could be affected. And analysts say that Beijing is playing a wait-and-see approach. They say that while China's economy is slowing and going through challenges, China is also more prepared this time to deal with tariffs. Chinese exports to the US were 15% of overall Chinese trade last year, and that was a smaller share than in the past.
Laura Westbrook in Hong Kong, thank you very much. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the headlines today. India is planning tariff cuts in a dozen sectors ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with his US counterpart Donald Trump. On Wednesday, Modi will arrive in the US as Trump plans to announce reciprocal taxes on many countries as India does work to avoid a trade war. America is India's top export market for aluminium shipments. Now in China, marriages fell by a fifth last year, the biggest drop on record. This comes despite efforts by authorities to encourage young couples to wed and have children to boost the country's declining population. Declining interest has long been blamed on the high cost of childcare and education. And Ed Sheeran was stopped from busking in the southern Indian city of Bengaluru on Sunday, with police saying he didn't have the necessary permissions. A video showing a local police officer unplugging his microphone has since gone viral. Officials say a request for the pop star's team to busk on the road was rejected to avoid congestion in the area, but Sheeran does deny this. The French president is chairing a major international conference on artificial intelligence in Paris. The AI Action Summit is focusing on trust and governance of AI innovation and technology and the future of work. Ross Cullen reports from the French capital.
Well, we're here at the AI Action Summit, which is being held in one of the most beautiful buildings in the French capital, the splendid surroundings of the Grand Palais. It is a major world gathering with global political leaders here, like the US Vice President J.D. Vance, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and of course the host President Emmanuel Macron. There are global tech leaders here, policymakers, diplomats, data scientists, and they are all convening to discuss artificial intelligence. This is where the speeches and the panels and the seminars have been taking place, discussing a whole range of issues related to AI. For example, how it could lead to improvements in children's learning techniques in education, how there could be enhancements in the healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors. Also, how it could potentially even lead to helping to locate landmines and improve mapping technology in the defense sector. The governance and regulation of artificial intelligence also being discussed here in the French capital. along with the potential for job creation in AI and potentially job losses as the world expands ever more with digitalization. Some of the other key subjects which are being discussed here include trust, innovation and safety online.
Ross Cullen in Paris there for us. Thank you so much. Let's take a look at the top business news. Fast food favourite McDonald's has posted its biggest US sales decline in nearly 5 years. The steeper than expected drop was down to fewer visitors following the E. coli outbreak, which saw some stores temporarily suspending sales of its quarter pounders. However, international sales rose, and that was really driven by both the Middle East and Japan. Now, Meta has started performance-based layoffs affecting over 3,600 employees across many countries. Impacted workers are being notified via email, losing system access within just 1 hour. The job cuts span multiple regions with significant impacts expected in European countries such as France, Italy, Germany and the Netherlands. Now, the new CEO of LIV Golf has welcomed President Trump's involvement in PGA Tour merger talks, saying golf has the power to bring people together. Trump has met with PGA officials as the organization seeks to help with talks with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, which of course backs LIV. Scott O'Neill sat down with Al Arabiya news correspondent Michal Prendergast to discuss the future of LIV Golf. Take a listen.
Hi Scott, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. So we're here at the Festival of Golf. As you can hear, it's all lively in the background. The LIV season opener in Riyadh. What are your expectations for this weekend?
Well, first starts with fun and probably ends with families. And so having our first round last night, which was so exciting, it is my first LIV event, and just to walk the course and see people smiling. You might hear the music in the background. We have music playing. We have DJs in our neon forest, and we have a fan zone that's to the likes I've never seen before. And the Backstreet Boys are playing tonight. So, I mean, when are you going to come to a golf tournament? See the greatest stars in the world. You got DJ, you got Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Waco Neiman. I mean, it is a who's who of golf, and pretty fun.
There's something for everyone, as you said, the Backstreet Boys. I know a lot of the non-golf fans who are here are looking forward to that as well. There's also another first here. The tournament is being played under lights. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, you know, we have an incredible leader in His Excellency, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, and he thought, hey, what an incredible opportunity to play at night. It'd be the first time it's ever been done before. We're in Riyadh, which is wonderful for television back in the US. You might know we have a new deal with Fox, so it puts the broadcast times in the right zone. It gives the players kind of an opportunity to test and try something new. And we have stars in this league that want to do something different. And I think it gives us an opportunity to showcase innovation, do something new and fun, and hit some broadcast windows in the US that are helpful. Of
course, absolutely. And we'll get to that point on Fox in a moment. So here it is, it's growing as a golf hub. What is the main driver behind that? Obviously, LIV is hugely involved in this. Where do you see the game growing over the next 5 years?
Well, there are so many incredible golf projects in the kingdom. I mean, you have Diriyah Gate, the project Greg Norman designed. You have what's happening in Qadiyah with those 2 beautiful courses down there. And it was just with a gentleman from Neom, which seems like that's going to be incredible too. So first off, it starts with the quality of golf courses. You clearly have commitment in this market. They continue to showcase, as we have here, a spectacular golf course and continuing the fandom to build. And I think that momentum is really going to help us for the next 5 years.
Absolutely. What are your favorite aspects of the LIV model? Obviously, like we've got the music here behind, the team aspect. Why do you think that is growing at such a fast rate in comparison with the PGA? Average age of the fans in the PGA is in the 60s. The average age of LIV fans is now in the 30s. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite aspect is the team aspect. I was with Sergio Garcia yesterday having lunch, and he was talking about how passionate he was about helping his guys, Luis and Puig and Abraham, kind of emerge and develop. I mean, and that to me is the specialness of this model. You have the greats of the game with an opportunity to kind of carry forward this next generation and help them emerge, not only as professionals and elite golfers, but also as human beings. And I think that's what brings me the most joy.
And kind of speaking about the human being aspect, I was lucky enough to walk the course behind Bryson DeChambeau last night, at Cameron Smith, at Dustin Johnson. These guys are just incredible.
You can't believe how athletic they are, right?
Yeah.
Like Bryson's drives, DJ's raw athleticism, and Cam's short game, you actually got to see it all. Like that is the best of the best on display.
Yes, and that is why, so like in terms of viewership, obviously you're competing against the PGA. As you mentioned earlier, you've just signed the deal with Fox as well as ITV in the UK.
It's a wonderful
You're
deal.
really starting to compete now for viewership with the PGA. This must be very exciting.
Yeah, I prefer like kind of co-opetition. I mean, I think all of us in the golf ecosystem, a rising tide lifts all boats. I don't think we're getting anywhere near scratching the surface in terms of the opportunity we have to drive more fans, golfers and non-golfers alike, into this golf family. Our household viewership opportunity in the 100 countries where we're broadcast is almost 800 million homes.
Wow.
And so, so we have such opportunity ahead and such good momentum so far. And I'm rooting for the PGA Tour to do really well. I'm rooting for the DP Tour to do really well. And LIV is what I'm really passionate about.
And you yourself have had an incredible career, obviously in the States. You've managed some of the biggest sports franchises in the world. What fundamentals from managing those are you going to bring into LIV to help further the game for LIV?
Well, the fundamentals are very similar. If you look at the business model here, it's TV, and so we've made some good progress as of late. We have a ways to go, but incredible progress with Fox and ITV, among others around the world. Our sponsorship base, if you don't have to look too far, then over my right shoulder to see Madden come in as one of the top. It's one of the 6 largest mining company in the world with a world-class CEO. Riyadh Air, Roshan, and our good friends in Bahri. So we have a great sponsorship base, and that's going to have to continue to grow around the world. But we've had such incredible support from the region here, which has been great. And then, look, we need more people coming. We need more people watching, reading, wearing our merchandise. Get this vest at a store near you, and experiencing this incredible hospitality. So I would just encourage you to give it a try. If you have a chance to come out and see a LIV event, it is probably like no event you've ever been to in your life. It is fun, it's engaging, it's family friendly, and you get to see more stars than you see in any constellation in the sky.
Agreed about that. It was incredible last night. So you have come into LIV at somewhat of an interesting time. Obviously, there's a lot of talk of allegiances with the PGA as well as the DP World Tour. Are you the man to achieve that goal? Is that something you want?
This is not, it never has been, never will be, it never could be about any one person. This is led by our incredible chairman. We have an incredible staff. And we have a golf industry that, as they say, inshallah, is actually pulling together and wanting to do what's best for the game of golf, to grow the game of golf, to come together and to make sure that everywhere around the world, golf fans are satisfied with what they're getting in terms of coverage and access to events.
President Donald Trump has recently met with the PGA Commissioner as well as Adam Scott, who also works for the PGA, to discuss a potential merger. There has been a lot of talk about this. Donald Trump has said on his campaign trail that in 15 minutes and one phone call, he could get a deal done. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are that if the leader of the free world is spending his time on golf, I am very happy. This game matters. It's one of the great life teachers in the world. It gives values that this world needs more of right now. It brings us together with connectivity. It gets us outside. It gets our phones in our pockets. It teaches us integrity and resilience and consistency, all things we all need to be successful in this world. And if there's commitment for all sides to bring the game together, which is good for the game of golf, I couldn't be happier.
Have you spoken with Trump?
I have not.
Okay.
But we are playing at his golf course in Miami in a few weeks. So
And he is a fantastic golfer, obviously, with kind of break 50 with Bryson, who's obviously doing huge numbers online. That's been incredible to watch. Yeah. Another point, the US Championship announced on Wednesday that it will accept players from LIV. This is a huge coup, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's a coup. The RNA announced this similarly today. So for the Open Championship, we'll see the same in Northern Ireland this year. So very exciting. For us, is, when you look at, when you consider the majors, the biggest stage in the world for the biggest stars in the world, and that's obviously the Masters at Augusta and the PGA of America, PGA Championships, and then the US Open and the Open Championships. They want the best stars in the world, and we have quite a few of them. And so I think when there's an opportunity to put those two things together, good things will happen. And we're really pleased and grateful and appreciative of this, the olive branch and the step forward. We've got great leaderships in the organizations that matter, and we're thrilled to be a part of it.
I'll just end on quickly. Do you have a favorite golfer who plays elsewhere that you would like to see in LIV?
No. I have one favorite golfer. That's my father-in-law. I have to love him for something.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing him on the course soon.
Okay, good. You will soon.
Thanks so much, Scott. A pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, history has been made in Saudi Arabia as Sotheby's hosted its first ever international auction in the kingdom. The unprecedented event, titled Origins, brought together art collectors from around the world in Riyadh. The sale fetched an impressive $17.3 million, attracting buyers from 45 countries. Our reporter Darshan Dalal has more.
But it's yours. Thank you so much.
For the first time in history, the global art market turned its attention to Saudi Arabia. Sotheby's, one of the world's leading auction houses, successfully debuted in Riyadh with an exclusive sale featuring masterpieces from both international and local artists. With over 100 pieces auctioned, fetching over $17 million, the Origins sale presented a mix of fine art spanning different eras and styles.
It's historical for many reasons because new auctions and new platforms are very rare. They don't happen often. That means the market and Sotheby's really believes in an art platform. That means we really believe in a new space, and that means we're ready to invest a lot of time, energy, and resources in a new venture like this.
Works from legendary names such as Pablo Picasso, Andy Warhol, and René Magritte found new owners alongside pieces by renowned Saudi artists like Mohammed Al Salim and Abdul Halim Radwi.
It's very important actually to be such an auction house, Sotheby's, to be hosted in the Diriyah especially. That makes the Saudi art in focus internationally, and also encourage Saudi artists to be really in the high level of art.
The auction held in Diriyah, the ancestral heart of Saudi Arabia's capital Riyadh, underscored the kingdom's commitment to fostering cultural renaissance.
Among the standout sales was a game-worn Michael Jordan jersey from the 1998 NBA playoffs, which fetched an impressive $960,000. The sale attracted collectors from 45 countries, with nearly a third of purchases made by Saudi buyers. Notably, over 30% of participants were under the age of 40, reflecting the kingdom's growing interest in fine art among younger generations.
There's a young generation here who's hungry for so many new things, and art is one of them, and luxury items and memorabilia as well. So there is just so much potential long term, and I feel we're just at the beginning of it.
As the final bids were placed and the gavel came down, collectors, both seasoned and new, walked away with prized additions to their collections. This historic moment marks just the beginning of what could be a new era for international art in the region. Darshan Dalal, Al Arabiya News.
A reminder of our top stories. Hamas says it will delay the release of more Israeli hostages as it accuses Israel of violating the terms of the ceasefire agreement. China's retaliatory tariffs on the US take effect as Trump announces he'll impose new 25% levies on all steel and aluminium imports into the US. Meanwhile, Trump says no right of return for Palestinians under Gaza takeover plan, describing it as a big real estate site. Tech titans and world leaders gather in Paris for a landmark AI summit. And that's all from us on W News. Thank you so much for joining us. Riz Khan is coming up next, and don't miss Tom Burgess Watson with GNT. Good night and thank you.